We're now talking to Dr. Kevin Sarran from the National Transformation Alliance, the NTA, and he's the Director of Youth Affairs. And it's a pleasure to have him on. Pleasant good evening, Dr. Sarran.
Pleasant good night to you too, Mikey K.
Yes,
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much to being with us and linking with us. I know a lot is going on.
Definitely.
Looking at what's taking place now, I mean, socially, crime seems to be one of the major topics. The heads of government of the CARICOM community, Caribbean community, CARICOM, made it quite clear on the occasion of the regional symposium to address crime and violence as a public health issue, has registered their grave concern at the increase in the legal exportation of guns from the United States of America, which they claim is a direct threat to our democracy. We've been here before. I mean, we've had a report from Professor Ryan 10 years ago, which detailed recommendations, integrated governance, a social contract that espouses poverty eradication, adequate housing, an improved education system, and the list goes on and on. Why are we still stuck in this situation, still asking where do we go from here?
Correct, and that's a very good question, Mikey. So the situation with crime in Trinidad and Tobago is simply alarming. The crime rate in Trinidad and Tobago, I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a recent publication on the World of Statistics website, and we were actually sixth in the world.
Yes.
Our crime rate was actually 71 crimes per 100,000 people. If you look at Venezuela was number one, and they had 83 crimes being committed per 100,000. To me, in my opinion, and I think it's known across the world, and every literature that you look at, you will see that there's a close relationship between crime and unemployment. If you have a Minister of National Security that comes on air and states that the relationship between unemployment and crime is non-existent, then therein lies the problem. Because, I mean, you could connect the dots and you could see how this is a domino effect that will increase the crime rate in Trinidad and Tobago. If someone is not working, the first thing they're going to do is borrow money. They might, survive for a couple months. The next thing they're going to do is turn to a life of crime. And this will not only affect that person who is a recipient of the crime, it will also affect the person who is committing the crime. Because the person who is the criminal may shoot a couple of people at some point in time, and this will directly affect their families. If they were the breadwinners for those families, particularly for the example of the pharmacist that got shot earlier on yesterday, their families, if he was the breadwinner for that family, it means that they will now be placed on social support services. And if the criminal gets shot, let's say by the police, he and his family will now be placed on social support services. So it's almost like a dependency syndrome, where it's a continuous cycle that's going around and around. I think the issue really is that they are not focusing on the cause and the main cause of the problem for crime.
Yeah, but as the Director of Youth Affairs for the NTA, I mean, how does it really start? I'm sure you can envision it just like the rest of us. Those of us who have heard stories, 3, 4 individuals would gather somewhere and say, listen, this is it. We have to eat. So this will be our plan. It's not a plan where they're going to try to get access to education. It's not a plan where they're going to try to see if they're going to qualify to learn a trade. It is a plan to go and take what does not belong to them. And in doing so, if they have to take a life, then so be it. Give us an idea, working with young people.
I'll tell you something, Mikey. In this situation, nobody wants to commit a crime. I can't imagine one person that will say, okay, let's make a crime a hobby. Because they know the criminals know that there are risks involved, It's just that for them, the benefits of committing the crime are greater than the risks. And in other words, they are faced with things like lack of employment opportunities. They are faced with, social discrimination, a lower socioeconomic status, and things like this. So the opportunities that are not available for the people who are committing the crime are available for other people in the country. So we need to fix that. And the root cause of all of this, in my opinion, is the employment situation in Trinidad and Tobago. If you provide them with the correct opportunities, you provide them with employment opportunities. And there are other aspects as well, things like the social circumstances, the cultural aspect of crime, the psychological aspect of crime, the legal aspect of crime. There's so many different aspects, but the heart and soul of crime in Trinidad and Tobago is unemployment.
Yeah, but even if they're not, one second, even if they're not driven to the point of saying, listen, we want to commit this crime, but they would tell you, listen, our back is against the wall. Now, as much as they may not want to do it, yet they feel confident enough to do it, to carry out this crime. Is it because they believe that the consequences is not dire? They're not going to have to deal as far as being held accountable for it. Even if they're arrested, the case will drag on. I mean, these are things that I'm sure that people will think through to say, all right, these are the pros and these are the cons. Or is it just a matter of, listen, it's all about survival. Let's gear up. Let's go out there and see how best we can eat our food.
Yeah, but exactly that point. And you see, the situation is they know our criminal justice system in Trinidad and Tobago is basically rebels. I mean, you can have people waiting years and years to basically get a court date. You have lawyers that are basically helping these criminals. There was a particular prime minister in the crime symposium, and he was saying that one of his plans was to rotate the judges as well as some of the lawyers within the Caribbean. And I think that's that is one of the better ideas that probably came out of that symposium, because the justice system plays a big part to play with it, and the criminals simply aren't seeing any sort of threat to them, So, and it all stems down from proper leadership. If we have a proper, strong leader in Trinidad and Tobago that has an iron fist, they will think twice before committing a crime.
Well, I mean, expand on that. I mean, do you believe that many of these criminals say, listen, what we have here is weak leadership, and I believe that I can get away with it? Are they that confident?
I think that is exactly the case. Because if you have the same policies that have been there for the longest while, and you have different leaders with applying the exact same policies, you will have a different outcome.
Yeah, but we've spoken about this time and time again. You're saying employment, which is a key thing. I mean, it gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you a sense of belonging, to wake up, having that responsibility to go out there and earn a living. Is that young people that perhaps you've worked with, do they feel that they're being deprived of that? And from whom?
Deprived of employment opportunities.
Yeah, as far as any opportunities across the
board. Well, look at it this way, right? A couple of years ago, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, our situation, we had a bottleneck in the category of when people came out from A-levels. They couldn't afford to go have a degree. When we had the GATE funding program, all of a sudden, everybody got a degree. And now we have a situation where people coming out, and you have people with degrees robbing people and trying to get by and doing all kind of crazy sorts of crimes in Trinidad and Tobago. It is really simply because the opportunities aren't available for them. It's a lack of poor successive planning on their behalf.
Well, what do you say to folks who are not that, compromising in what you're saying, to say, okay, I understand, it's more than just one element. And there are those who would say, listen, I don't want to hear those excuses. I didn't grow up with money. I didn't come from a privileged family. And I didn't turn out to go out there and kill or rob anybody. What do you say? Is there a disconnection there that people are simply not getting when it comes to dealing with this issue, especially among our youth?
Yeah, well, Mikey, the situation you just described is exactly my situation. I grew up, I was fortunate to have proper parents with the proper iron fist and the proper upbringing to keep me on track. I mean, I line with the guys in the block, when they're smoking and stuff, but I never picked up smoking. I looked at movies with violence, but I never picked up violence in any way. I listen to dancehall music, but that don't mean that I'm some sort of gangster. So a lot of it does have to do with your social upbringing, and parents do play a significant part in that.
Yeah, and what are some of the things that stands out when you interact with these young people, besides the fact of employment? Is there some sort of thing that they communicate to you as to, listen, I simply have no choice. There are no options. I just have to go for it. And what do you say then?
Yeah, what you just described there was some of the opportunities, some of the situations that we have had interacting with people before. Things like the brain drain that's happening in Trinidad and Tobago. They're coming out there with 2 and 3 degrees, and every degree costs $100,000 because it's $30,000 a year. And some of them come out, and when they come out with 1 degree, and the parents say, well, okay, well, you can't get a job, well, go do a next degree. So they end up with 2 degrees and still in unemployment. So they end up $200,000 down in the hole. At that age, they would have been 18 plus, let's say 25 years old. They haven't started a family. They don't have an income coming in there. They're frustrated. So the next option is to, pelt out, to decide to go out of the country. And that's a significant brain drain. So that's one aspect. Food security is another, thing that's happening in Trinidad and Tobago. We've had the prices of food in Trinidad and Tobago almost a 60% rise within the last 5 years. And with the wages in Trinidad and Tobago being what it is right now and haven't changed, inflation eating up every bit of, profit that you would have gotten, it is unbearable.
Yeah, and you spoke about again food prices and all of these other issues. I mean, people want to put food on the table. They want to provide for their family. They want to eat as we know it. But let me ask you something. If an NTA government was to be formed tomorrow, what would be some of the five key things that you would want to implement as far as helping these young people deal with these situations?
That is such a great question. So some of the things I would like to do, I would like to advocate for policies that help the youth, particularly with things like employment, mentorship, education opportunities. I want to bring up awareness to these people to some of the issues that are happening in Trinidad and Tobago. You know, we want to develop some things like preventative strategies. We want to work with community leaders. You want to incorporate people like soca artists, social media influencers. They want to form collaborations with things like youth groups, particularly law enforcement agency. These people play a huge part. I mean, when I was a child and I had a police officer come to my school, I remember that as being one of the best things that ever happened to me, because you have somebody of authority. You could ask any questions there. It was really an amazing experience to have somebody of that authority taking the time out from their job to come to see you in a school as a child and answer any question you have. I was willing to go straight, if I wasn't straight then, to being on the right path. That would have set me straight.
Yeah, so you're talking about mentor programs, you're talking about education, as well as sports and other social things that can be done to sort of steer them in the right direction. Because what program is there for them to make that turn around? I want to come out of this gang. I want to come out of this lifestyle. I want to put down this weapon. I mean, how many of them are able to have access to a program that once they're in this situation, they can find an exit out?
That is exactly where the community's leaders come in, because you could put any amount of programs you want in place as a person looking from the outside. But if you are not willing to step down at the ground level and communicate with the people that are on the ground, finding out what are the issues that the kids and them are facing, then you will really be spinning in mud. You could put all the policies you want in place, you could put all the social programs, they will not come, they will not show up. So that is where the bridge between you and the individual that's going through that problem will come in there.
All right. Thank you. Closing comments? Go right ahead.
Sorry?
Closing comments? Go right ahead.
Oh, yeah. I know this country is going through a very stressful period in time right now. I just want to say to you guys, just hang in there. Better days are coming. Believe.